working on old cars, you're gonna find yourself restoring some pretty oddly shaped parts. But after working on this thing for a year and a half, I'm running out of time. I gotta find a way to speed things up. So that's exactly what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be experimenting with a variety of different tools, techniques, and products, trying to find out what's the quickest way to get this done and do as little work as possible. Wow, look at this, it freaking worked. My name is Trooper Max, and I'm restoring a car that's been off the road since 1977. But I've never done this before. I've taken the time to do my research, and I'm building the car of my dreams, hoping to inspire others to do the same. So we're back on the project, and I've kind of accumulated what's remaining here on this car, odds and ends, things to restore that aren't big projects. Kind of gonna do them all quickly, see what we could do, what's the fastest and easiest ways to kind of get this stuff done efficiently. So we still have like the cowl vent here, and aside from that, other weird shaped objects. We also have some stuff in different types of solutions, either removing rust or removing paint, so we're gonna kind of go from there. And there's also one more thing worth mentioning. Last time when we were working on the fenders, we kind of made a crazy goal. When we realized we could save these things, we made a new goal that not only are we hand sanding this car, but we're also going to save all the exterior body panels and whatnot. So we're talking about the hood, the trunk lid, the fenders, cowl vents, also supports such as the rad support here, any sort of bracketry or whatnot. That's all got to go back on the car. It's got to be all original. Even the trims. The only thing I'm allowed to do is I'm allowed to get stuff we're missing, because we are missing a few pieces. But other than that, no reproduction parts on there. We have to save them. All right, before I do any manual stripping or restoring, I'm going to come over to the old Lazy Man's box. I've been using this to strip and restore parts without doing any work. So these are pretty much almost ready to go. Might need one more dunk. In the box, I've basically been using Evapo-Rust just to get rid of the rust. Just put it in, leave it, and it pretty much goes away, which is really nice. Currently, I got some parts in here. This is from the bumper we did a while ago. These are pretty much ready to finish off. I got this pedal assembly here. Now, I could strip this manually, but it's kind of an awkward shape. So what I did is I just took it apart. I'm just gonna dunk it in, let it do its thing. Seal it up, leave it for a day or two, come back to it. And at the same time, we got the rust going in the other box. Here in mystery box number 2, I have all the parts that we're stripping, and the way we're doing that, we're just stripping it with Easy Off. So we just spray it with that, put the parts in, and look, all the paint comes off. It's pretty cool. Here, we'll add this latch assembly in, basically. We'll just spray her on. This was pure rust before. I don't feel like sanding it. We'll chuck it in. Let's check on the progress of our parts. Seldom disappointed when I crack open this box. Okay. I threw this in because it had a bit of rust left. Now it has nothing left. You can actually see where the remaining rust is. So I will dunk this one more time, but I'm happy with that. Main thing I wanted to look at though, ho ho ho, look at that. Now that is freaking sweet. Look at that. Evapo-Rust, you're my only friend. I'm gonna drop everything back in. Come back to it later. Let's take a look at box number 2. Let's take a look at this latch assembly. We just put this in yesterday, so it's only had a day. But look at that already. Look at the paint just coming off, no problem. It really doesn't take much at all. Wow. A little bit of rust exposed, but look at that, no sanding at all. I think all I gotta do is wash these things and then put them back in the rustoleum, get rid of the rest of the rust. Now that to me is awesome. It's gonna save us a lot of time. Alrighty, check this out. Parts are all washed. And overall, look at that. That's amazing. I can't believe we did that with absolutely no sanding. And some of the parts look amazing like that. Others that had a lot of paint on them will expose things like rust. So now what I do is I just have to keep going through all the stations. Anything with rust, put in the rustoleum. Anything with remaining paint, put it with the oven cleaner and just keep going. And this is gonna work for me while I do other stuff, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. But now what I'm gonna do, I got lots of other things to sand. I'm gonna start that cowl vent and get all my sanding done so we can move on to the next stage. this is unexpected. So after 5 days of battle with all these parts, this is where we're at. What's really impressive is all those parts over there that we did absolutely no sanding. All we were doing is rotating it between the oven cleaner and the Evaporust. That's all we did. So I spent probably $200 on Evaporust and probably about $60 on the oven cleaner. So you're talking, you know, shy of 300 bucks or so, not even. That's pretty darn good. I gotta tell you, this non-invasive passive way of sanding worked really well. But we're not done yet. Before we get to the next stage, what we got to do is we still have to sand these because it's not perfect. There are some areas that have been, you know, not touched. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually just going to put a timer on. I'm just going to sit down, get comfortable, and just start sanding these things and see how long it takes to sand all this stuff, and then we can move on to the next stage, which is getting to the Ospho. So after only 4.5 hours on the wire brush, these things are ready to go, and I gotta tell you, I'm ecstatic. Like, look how nice these things turned out. It's actually kind of hard to believe how good this stuff looks, considering some of these items just a few months back looked like they came from the bottom of the ocean or they were buried on Oak Island for over 200 years. This is crazy. So the products work really well. It's gonna be much easier to finish this off. There is no way in hell I could have sanded all that in 4.5 hours with all the dirt, grease, and grime and heavy rust and paint that was on here. All those tricks we used really went a long way because it was such a quick thing. All I had to do was remove some surface scuff. In some areas where there was thick rust, it was really, really hard to remove with the wire brush. So I'm just really glad that that Evaporust worked as well as it did. Going through all those stages seemed like it took forever, but it was totally worth it. In the end, everything looks pretty damn good. All these parts look new, with the exception of, you know, something like this. But honestly, if you look at this now, and compare it to what it looked like before, it's really hard to believe that this is the same piece. Like, that would have been extremely difficult to sand. Heck, the hardest part to sand would have been something like this, like the pedal assembly here, very difficult to sand just because you can see all the shapes and whatnot. So using those two tricks really worked nicely. Really, I look at all this and I'm blown away. Like another piece here, this piece was absolutely covered in rust. Like, I'm talking heavy rust, all this stuff. I didn't even want to take this stuff home at first. So now the only stage before paint is to actually put on some Ospho. I'm just going to put it on so it stops any sort of flash rusting. And there still is rust in some little areas, so I really want to stop it. This is going to prevent it from that happening. And at the same time, it's going to take any sort of rust, convert it into a paintable surface. So in the areas like the hinges, it's just going to be 100% protected. And then we can hit with epoxy. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take the Ospho and go all the way around, cover all this stuff just lightly. We'll let it dry for 48 to 72 hours and we'll come back to it. So we're back on our parts again, and truthfully, it's been 2 months. These things have actually been sitting while I was working other stuff. It was the whole idea was to put this in Ospho, and that would prevent it from rusting, which it has. If you take a look at all the parts here, they have basically no rust at all. There are only a few little places we've had some specks come through, but otherwise, there's no rust at all. That was the whole idea of using Ospho, because for pros that are sanding this and then immediately hitting it with epoxy primer, they don't need to go through all this. However, as you can see, doing it this way really gives you more time, because look, no rust, that's nice, right? You can come right back to it, keep working on it. You're not sanding it. Whereas, if we left this all bare metal, you know darn well it would have been covered by rust right now. So, now it's not a perfect system, but at the same time, it does give us more time. I've actually had a part of the car in Ospho for over a year now. I haven't been able to touch that part. And just now in the last couple months, rust has began starting in those areas. And even that is very minimal. It still looks like bare metal for the most part. So it just goes to show you how well it works. So every one of these layers just gives you more protection over time so that you don't have to worry about rust coming back. So everything we give, let's have it last as long as possible. So we're going to be working on this. The only thing I didn't sand was this one part. So this was actually dunked. However, it wasn't sanded by hand. So what I'll do just right now is grab my sander, sand this one by hand, get it down so it looks like everything else. It's the only thing that's not going to be an Ospho. Now once all the rust and everything is off and it's all clean and ready to go, it's about getting it ready for the next stage. Now everything is in Ospho here, so when we go to hit it with the epoxy primer, it's actually going to adhere really well because Ospho actually makes the adhesion better. So that's one of the advantages. Now if you're not using Ospho, you're just doing bare metal, then what you got to do, unfortunately, you got to take some sandpaper and you got to sand it. So this is 120 grit. I want to go everywhere because using a wire brush takes off the texture and it makes it smooth. You're polishing the metal. Epoxy primer doesn't like that. It needs some tooth, so basically texture. Got to take some sandpaper and really go over. Now you can see that's a pain in the ass going through all these parts. In some cases you can't even do it. So that's why I think using the Ospho is a real help, because there's areas we just can't sand. If we were using a sandblaster, it wouldn't matter because a sandblaster leaves texture. So that's the downside of using hand tools like this, is like you're not going to get that texture. So there's, you know, pluses and minuses. So in this case, I'm going to sand this because I got it the way I wanted to. And I'm not putting Ospho on this one because I'm going to be painting really soon. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to take the paper and I lightly go over every part. Even if I did use the Ospho, just lightly. I'm not trying to take it off just to make it smoother because there are some ridges and whatnot. Plus it takes off any debris. Now I'm not saying you absolutely need to scuff it up. You know, there's people that will say you could just put epoxy primer and be fine. And I think that's true to a certain degree because it's just spraying it on things by accident. I had a hell of a time getting it off, so this stuff is strong. However, when it comes to cars and something like this where I want to be one and done, I want to be finished this as soon as it's done. I never want to touch it again. I think it just makes sense to put in as many stages as we can to make sure that it works the way it's supposed to. We don't have to revisit it. If it's just a, you know, quick job, quick fix, it doesn't matter. But in this case, we want almost perfect results. All right, so that looks pretty good. Ended up bringing out the cowl vent as well. Now, I actually took the time to take some sandpaper and just go over all, make sure that everything is clear so there is no rust in the areas where it did come back. Now it's clean, so the next stage before we clean it is to bring down the acidity. So I'm going to be using lacquer thinner as always. So I'm going to take the lacquer thinner, go all around all this metal, and then once that's done, we're just going to clean it all. Okay, so with all of our items ready now, we're just about ready to paint. Last thing we're gonna do is we've got to clean it off. It's the most pain in the butt thing to do. Nobody likes cleaning, but honestly, this is not where I want to cut any corners. So I'm just using wax grease remover, prep all in this case, but anything really works. It's a matter of just spraying it on, wiping off all the contaminants as best as possible, and just gonna do the whole bundle. Then we're gonna spray. All right, so we're ready to start hanging up our pieces now and spraying them. Now, a lot of people have professional drying racks, you know, big things on wheels and whatnot. I don't have anything like that. So I figured, what can I do to use the space I have for as little money as possible? Well, I found this piece of metal in the backyard just lying there. And at the same time, I looked up and everybody's got a garage door. So I figured if I take this thing, maybe we can do this. Something like that, something, and just take wire, hang the wires, hang our parts, and that's kind of a painting rack. I don't know what you would call it, but all I know is it cost me no money at all. So I'm just gonna do that, take all my pieces, hang them up, and get them ready for painting. So the stockings were hung with care, so everything's ready to go. Hung everything up. I'm just gonna be spraying this. I'm gonna be using epoxy, 2-part. So 1-to-1 ratio. So we're gonna be mixing that up, and then I'm just gonna be using a paint sprayer. I just have an electric sprayer, nothing fancy, uses batteries. It works really well. I'm gonna be using a 1.8 millimeter tip because it's epoxy, and I'm just gonna spray this 2 coats and just get it ready for the next stage. Alrighty, it's the following day, everything's nice and dry. These things are almost ready for the second coat, but prior to doing that, there's one thing I want to do. So these are in good shape, however, some of them, like these pieces here, have significant pitting. And even though this is just a bumper connector that basically goes underneath the car, I want to make it look a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the pieces that I want to touch up, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to touch everything up, and then we're going to put our primer on. So these are the parts that we have here. Just all the parts we found need a little bit of work. Nothing horrible, but I just want to make this stuff look as good as possible. Some of the things have a little more damage than others, but the thing is, as long as this is coated, we could take our filler, mix it up, put it on, and go from there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to be taking the Bondo, mixing it, and I'm just going to put it on all these parts, cover them, smooth it out as much as possible, take the time to sand it to the finish that we want, and just get it ready for painting. So the parts are painted, dried, ready to go, and I gotta tell you, looking around here, it's hard not to smile. I'm really happy. I'm looking at this stuff and it looks freaking awesome. Like, take a look at this vent. Like, tell me that is not a thing of beauty. To imagine what this looked like when we started and seeing what the shape is now, it's pretty cool. So what we gotta do next is, usually after we're done the epoxy, I take all my stuff, put it downstairs, and put it there for later. But this time we got to do things a little differently. We actually have to separate some stuff. This stuff down here, so the cowl vent, some of the latches, the stuff for the bumper, this stuff is actually going to be put away because we are going to be painting this the final color of the car, which we don't know yet. At the same time, this stuff still requires a little bit of body work, so we're going to be doing that later on, so it's going to be put away. Now, all these parts back here, in my mind, are finished. There's nothing else that needs to be done. And the important thing is with epoxy, when you paint with epoxy, you got approximately 2 to 5 days to do your top coat, or else you got to take all this stuff and you got to sand it and scuff it all down. You can't just paint over this after a long period of time. So imagine taking all this stuff and sanding it now and painting it. That'd be crazy. So rather than doing that, we're actually going to take this stuff, we're going to paint it. We're going to use a satin finish paint. We have a 8:1 mix ratio industrial type paint. Now, the paint I'm using has a hardener in it, and I gotta tell you folks, do not waste your time with paint that does not have a hardener. If it doesn't have a hardener, it's junk. It's not gonna last. You put all this work in, it makes sense to buy some good paint. So have something that has a hardener, it's just gonna last much longer. So that's what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna be using a different tip. So we're gonna be changing the tip on our sprayer. We're still using our electric sprayer. For this, it's good enough. The only thing is we're going to be changing from a 1.8 millimeter to a 1.5 millimeter. Now the paint instructions that I have say anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5. So we're going to be using a 1.5. That's the smallest I have. That's what we're going to go for. It should be fine. Smaller is better in this case, but 1.5 should be okay. When it comes time to paint the car, we're going to be using something else. I don't think that sprayer is going to really do it. But for this stuff, it's good enough. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to take our paint, we're going to mix it up, and we're just gonna spray it on, cover all our panels, and make sure that this stuff is ready to go, and then it's all finished. So our parts are painted, the paint is dry, and I gotta tell you, this stuff looks phenomenal. I am blown away by the final result. Look at this stuff, this is crazy. Like, take a look at this. Remember we were doing this part? Look, looks almost brand new. You could barely even see where we did any body work. And we didn't put much effort into that, honestly. Looking at this stuff, it's hard not to be proud. Just thinking back to where we started, especially on these hood hinges here, these things looked like they were at the bottom of the ocean. They were really rough shape, and they look almost brand new now. So it's just cool to know that we saved all these parts, original parts from the car, and they're going back on it, and they look almost brand new. This paint is awesome too. It looks really good. It's a really strong finish. The only problem I had was actually spraying it. It was pretty difficult to spray. This is a single stage polyurethane. Very, very tacky stuff. The paint sprayer just kept getting gunked up. So yeah, that was the only downside, but otherwise, look at it. It looks freaking awesome, you know? Hard to believe we just took this stuff and dipped it in some solutions and cleaned it up a little bit, and look at it now. So I think doing all those experiments really went a long way. So this is awesome. Another piece of history saved. Let's get on the next stage.